Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Almighty God, most gracious, most merciful. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. All praises are due to Him alone, the Lord, cherisher and sustainer of the worlds. To our moderator, Brother Fakaruddin, Uncle Wijaya, Professor Balraman, Brother Paikiat, sorry. And also brothers and sisters, I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Which means peace, blessing of Almighty God be with you all. I know the moderator has introduced me, and I would like to say there were a lot of exaggeration there. Okay, so let me just reintroduce myself a little bit more. Is that okay? In Malay they say tak kenal maka tak cinta. Jadi kita berkenal-kenalan dulu, pasal cinta belakang kira. Okay. Firstly, I am not an ustaz, and for sure I'm not an ustazah. I'm just an ordinary lay Muslim. Okay, and I'm here from my experience. I come from a different faith. Now I'm a Muslim. I became a Muslim 16 years ago, and people usually ask me, how did I become a Muslim? Do you want to know? Yes. Well, I became a Muslim by declaring the Shahada. Alright? Okay, for my non-Muslim brothers and sisters, you may not know what I meant by that. Ask your Muslim friends, inshallah. Okay, the title, the subject given today is Concept of God according to my holy religion, which is Islam. And I shall be speaking from the Holy Scripture, not from my mind itself, because the title is Concept of God in Islam. Not concept of God according to Shakiri. True? Okay. Now when we say concept of God in Islam, before we go into who is God, let us see what is the meaning of Islam. Where does the word Islam is derived from? In Arabic language, there are several other words that share the same root, which is salam, aslama, and also salima. Salam means peace, harmony, tranquility, calmness. Aslama does not mean obedience or submission to God, but rather aslama means willing submission, willing obedience to God, total surrender, not part-time surrender. And salima means authentic, pure. In short, Islam means to attain peace by willing and total submission to God in an authentic way. So I repeat again, Islam means willing total submission to God in an authentic way. That is the meaning of Islam. Now, human beings are very special. Human beings are given the faculty of intellect. With this faculty of intellect, God allows human being to choose. God gives us permission to choose. We have limited free will. We can choose either to obey God or not to obey God. As human beings, if we choose to obey God, we would have harmony around us. Isn't it so? But today, my brothers and sisters, what do you think about our world today? Is there many suffering in the world today? Are there many sufferings? You agree? Suffering is caused because human beings choose not to obey God. For an example, if every single human being on earth they choose to obey God, 100% they obey God, do you think there will be much suffering in the world today? The answer is no. The answer is no. When we become godly people, there will be peace and harmony around us. Now, what is the meaning of Muslim? Muslim is anyone who truly and fully submits to one and the only Almighty God. Anyone who obeys Almighty God willingly, total surrender in an authentic way is a Muslim. A Malay does not necessarily mean a Muslim. An Arab does not necessarily mean a Muslim. If you are a Malay or an Arab or whatever race for that matter, if you do not submit to God, then the term Muslim does not apply. Because Muslim is not based on a person's race, but it is the deeds, the action that you carry out. So the religion Islam is not just for particular race, but it is for everyone. Now, is Islam equal to Muslim? Now, when we say Muslim today, anyone who professes the religion Islam, we call them Muslim. So the question now, does Islam equals to Muslim? The answer is no. Islam is based on the sources, which is the Quran and the Hadith or the Sunnah. You know Hadith? Not the hard disk in the computer. Okay? This Hadith or the Sunnah are the tradition of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So when we say Islam, it is based on the sources. The Quran, which as Muslim we believe are the verbatim words of God, and the Sunnah or the Hadith, the saying, the action, the tradition of Prophet Muhammad. These are the primary source. Islam does not equal to Muslims, because sometimes a Muslim's action may not be in accordance to the teachings of Islam. For an example, because of the action of few Muslims, you cannot say Islam is to be blamed. To give you a comparison, for example, the action of few Christians, the action of few Hindus, the action of few Buddhists, we cannot blame the religion for the action of the people. If you want to know what is Islam, what is Christianity, what is Buddhism, what is Hinduism, go back to the sources, the most authentic scripture in that religion. Is that reasonable? Alright. Having said this, Islam means willing and total submission to God. So as a Muslim, whatever we do, we put God in the center. It is a God-centric religion. Even we have any meeting or anything, we will take into consideration what time is our prayer time. And we will not want to have a meeting where we have to skip our prayer time. So God always comes first and everything else is next. Therefore, it is very important as a Muslim for us to know who is God, how to identify God. God is something we cannot describe. No human being can comprehend God. So who can describe the undescribable? Only God can describe himself. So as a Muslim, we believe the Quran are the words of God. And God describes himself in the Quran. For example, in Surah Al-Ikhlas, chapter 112, chapter of purity, verses 1 to 4. In 4-line definition, God describes who he is and who he is not. When we read the Quran, we begin with the formula, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Almighty God, most gracious, most merciful. Now, who is God? What is the criteria of being God? The first verse is, Kul huwallahu ahad. Say, God is one and only. God is not two, not three, not five, not many. Now, brothers and sisters, just imagine, if there is more than one God, what would happen? They will quarrel. One God says, let's give Subang rain. The other God said, no, let's make it hot and sunny. So they have to fight over it. So they do ozone, the Malaysian way, right? If more than two gods, la talila tamplong. The moment you have more than one God, there's power sharing. The moment you share power, you do not have absolute power. But God possesses absolute power. The second condition is Allahus Samad. The word Samad in Arabic language have deep meaning. Among the words used in English to translate the word Samad is God is eternal and absolute. Meaning there is no beginning, no ending for God. God is not subject to time and space. God is absolute. God requires no sustenance. God does not need to eat, to drink, or to rest. Now, for purpose of discussion, if you eat and you drink, after some time, you need to go to toilet. It is not fitting for God to go to toilet. See that? Okay. The third condition is Lam yalid wa lam yulad. God begets not, nor is he begotten. Meaning, God does not give birth to any children, no son, no daughters, and he himself is unborn. God has no mother, no father. Now let's say for purpose of discussion, if God have children, what will happen? These children of God would be baby gods. Then they grow up, they become God. and they fight with one another. Problem number one. If God has parents, mother and father, parents are superior to a child. So if God has a mother or a father, the mother and the father is superior to God. Nothing can be above God. The fourth condition is walam yakullahu kufuwan ahad. There is nothing like unto God. Whatever we can see in this universe, in this world, what we can observe is not God. These are creation. God is the creator. The creator is not the same as his creation. This 4-line definition is a touchstone in theology for Muslim. When we say touchstone, is how you verify whether something is or not. For an example, if I have gold and I want to sell gold, I go to a grocery shop, right? To sell my gold? No, I go to a goldsmith. And I go to a goldsmith and tell him, look, this is a 24 karat gold. What does the goldsmith do? He weigh it and give me the money, right? Does he do that? No, he would verify first. He will rub the gold into a touchstone and verify whether it is 24 karat gold, 22 karat gold, 18 karat gold, or maybe imitation gold. Not everything that glitters is gold. So after verification, only then he will give me the money. So as a Muslim, this 4-line definition is how we verify who is God and who is not God. Any candidate who claims to be God, if that candidate can pass this stringent test, as a Muslim, I have no problem to worship that candidate as God. Because the test is so stringent, only true God will pass, any false claim to divinity would fail miserably. Now, in summary, what Islam teaches us is worship the Creator, not worship His creation. Hold on. But worship the Creator the way God tells us to worship Him. Not worship God the way we think we should worship God. For example, you study in this university, Taylor University, you follow rules and regulation as given by the university, right? Not the way you think you should follow rules and regulation. So in Islam, it teaches us worship God as how God tells us to worship Him, not worship God as how we think we should worship God. Wait. How do we know how to worship God? What did God tell us? Now in the Quran, it explains to us, for example, in Surah Nahl chapter 16 verse 36, Surah Fatih chapter 35 verse 24, Surah Ra'd chapter 13 verse number 7, that God has sent His messengers to every single nation. Every single nation, God sent His messengers, His prophets, guiding the people, worship God alone and shun false gods. Now after clear message has reached us, and we associate partners to God, this is what we call shirk. Shirk means you do not worship the true God, but you worship something else. Shirk also means you worship the true God, but at the same time, you also worship other than God. This is the sin that we call as shirk. And in the Quran, in Surah Nahl, in Surah Nisa chapter 4, verse number 48 and verse number 116, God says God will never forgive the sin of shirk unless you repent. But any other sins other than shirk, if God wishes to forgive, God can forgive. Let's continue. Now, who is God? What is His name? In Surah Isra chapter 17 verse number 110, God says in the Quran, call Him by the name Allah, or Ar-Rahman, the most gracious, or whatever name you call Him. Verily the most beautiful names belongs to Him. According to the hadith of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there are 99 names of gods. When we say names of God, these are the characteristics of gods. For example, in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse number 40, God is never unjust even in the least bit. God is just. God will never be unjust even in the least bit. In Surah Yusuf chapter number 12 verse number 100, God is full of knowledge. God is all-knowing. God possesses all knowledge before, after, during, all knowledge. And also if you look into Surah Al-Kahfi chapter number 18 verse number 109, If you were to use all the ocean as ink and write the words of God, the oceans will dry up. And if God replaced with similar amount of ocean, and still it will not be sufficient to write the words of God. God is full of knowledge. In Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 255, which as Muslim it is known as Ayatul Kursi, it is mentioned God is a living God. He is eternal. He possesses all knowledge. No one can intercede without His permission. No slumber or sleep overtakes God. His dominion is beyond the heaven and earth. So this is God. God is all-hearing, all-seeing, oft-forgiving, full of loving kindness. Surah Buruj, chapter 85, verse number 14. Surah Buruj, chapter 85, verse number 16. God is doer of all that He intends. He has power over all things. Surah Fatih, chapter 35, verse number 1. Nothing happens without God's permission. Not even a single leaf can fall to the ground without God's permission. Now, brothers and sisters, the God in Islam, we call Him as Allah. That is the name given by God in the Quran. Kul huwallahu ahad. Say, He is Allah, one and only. In Arabic language, those who understand Arabic language, the moment you say Allah, you cannot have plural Allah. But the word English for God, which is God, G-O-D, the moment you add S behind, it becomes gods, meaning more than one God. But there's no such a thing as Allahs in Arabic language. Or, for example, if you add the word D-E-S-S behind God, it becomes goddess, indicating female God. In Arabic language, when you say Allah, Allah is neither male nor female. And when you put God, G-O-D, capital G, it means true God. Lowercase g, it means demigod, false God. But in Arabic language, when you put Allah, there is no uppercase or lowercase of alif. You see that? Okay, so as a Muslim, we would prefer to call God by the name Allah. But when we interact with our non-Muslim brothers and sisters, we don't mind using other terms, common terms, as God or Tuhan or Bhagwan or Shakti and so on, so forth. Okay? No, time's not up. 3 minutes more. Okay. Brothers and sisters, in Surah Hujurat, chapter 49, verse number 13, God says, O mankind, we created you from a pair, male and female, referring to Adam and Eve, and made you into tribes and nations. So you learn from one another. Not you despise one another, not you fight with one another, but we learn from one another. And verily, the most honored in the sight of God is the one with the most piety, righteousness. And the term used in the Quran is taqwa, the righteousness. God does not see whether you are male or female, or the color of your skin, but God scans your heart and looks into your righteousness. Islam is the way to the truth and life. In Surah Ma'idah chapter 5 verse number 3, the Quran says, this day I perfected your religion. The word religion in the Quran is mentioned is ad-din. Ad-din does not mean religion per se. It means the way of life. So God is saying, I perfected your way of life and completed my favor upon you and chosen Islam. Islam meaning submission to God. Submission to God as your way of life. In Surah Al-Imran chapter 3 verse number 19, the only way of life accepted by God is submission to God. In Surah Al-Imran chapter 3 verse number 85, if anyone choose a way of life other than submission to God, never will it be accepted by God. Brothers and sisters, in the Quran chapter 16 verse number 125, God says, Udu ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah wa mau'izatil hasanah wajadilhum billati ahsan, which means invite all to the way of your Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching, and argue with ways that are best and most gracious. Did I follow this advice in my presentation? If I did not, that is my mistake. Because Islam says, use wisdom and beautiful preaching. So brothers and sisters, that's all. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Brother Shakiri, for his on the dot timing.
Thank you very much.
Now, without further ado, I'd like to call Uncle Vijaya for his speech.
Uncle,
Thank you.
you want to use controller?
Yeah,
You
sorry.
want to use this?
Okay.
Okay.
Good, but I don't know how
Front.
to use it.
This is front.
Okay.
This is middle.
Oh, okay.
It works.
Technology. Thank you, Brother Fakhruddin, for the kind introduction. I am very happy to be in front of all of you to talk about the concept of God. That's the important thing. By the way, 17 minutes, is it?
70 minutes.
17, thank you. Now I'm just thinking, when you told me there's 20 minutes to go, the Buddha spent 45 years explaining Buddhism, and they give me 20 minutes. Thank you. I think they think I'm fantastic. Okay, but another thing about Buddhism, Buddhism, time is something that was invented by deluded man. So we don't believe in time. I can go on as long as I like. Now, I'd like to begin by...
Just carry on, carry on.
It's being recorded. Oh, I have to be careful. Okay, right. Injury time, huh? All right. We are talking about the concept of God. How do different people see God? Brother Shakirat explained from a Muslim point of view how God is perceived, how God is understood. Right? So today I would like to share with you how Buddhists understand this concept of God. Yeah? Directly speaking, they would say, no, we don't accept this idea of a single God, but that does not mean they deny the existence of God. They rather emphasize the godliness within us that has to be realized. So it's a different emphasis. The concept is seen differently. But before I do that, I'd like to share with you this whole concept. I'm going to spend a few minutes saying how human beings have conceived of this idea of God. The earliest human beings had animism, where they saw everything was God. Now, for example, in the Shinto religion in Japan, 84 million gods. Every fish, every mountain, every sea is God. So what they do is they respect all of nature. So that is one. The other one is polytheism. Slowly they came to the idea that there are many gods, all of whom have different functions. So that we call polytheism. Then this moved on again. All of these need a program director. Okay? So they moved on to what is called a chief god. So henotheism is where there is a chief god, but there are gods under him. Okay? And then finally the evolution was one God, monotheism. So in the world today, there are different ways of understanding this concept of God. Yeah? Now let us look how a dictionary would conceive of God. Usually the Western concept is from a Western dictionary. It says it's the human recognition of a superhuman controlling power, and then a personal God entitled to obedience. From that definition, Buddhism does not accept the concept of a single God. Okay? So then, on the other hand, some other dictionaries would define religion as our supreme good lies in our harmoniously adjusting ourselves thereto. That there is an unseen order in the universe. The belief that there is an unseen order, that everything is in chaos. But if we understand that chaos, how things operate, we work according to that, then we will realize our own supreme nature. So Buddhists would subscribe to the second concept. that we have to work towards realizing our own spiritual goodness. Okay? Then, what is the definition of God? Superhuman being, worshipped as having power over nature and human fortune. By that, no single person, the Buddhists would say, there is no single power that controls all of this. Okay? Then, what is the definition of religion? Explain human existence through the concept of a God. Some people explain through the concept of a God, that God is seen as the starting point. But other religions don't. Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, on the other hand, say we don't start from God, but we start from man. So this would be called homocentric religions. So Buddhism is a homocentric religion which tries to explain what is happening within me, how do I work within this concept. Okay? So that is the definition of religion. So Buddhism would be called a homocentric religion, along with Taoism and Confucianism. Okay. The next one, Buddhism. But Buddhism does not deny the existence of a God. Brother Shakir said Gods. Buddhism would also say yes, because Buddhism would accept that there are beings on this world that we can see. But that is not all. There are other aspects, there are other forces to whom we can give the name gods. Alright, which goes back to the animistic concept. Okay? Later I'll talk about 3 different types of God. Does not deny the existence of God, but emphasizes the need for the self-effort. Now that is the big difference. That the Buddhists say, whatever goodness that there is needs to be realized, has to be realized by oneself. Now, not too different from other religions as well. Everybody says you can't simply surrender to God and leave it there. While we surrender to God, we also need to work at it. Now, the Buddhists emphasize that aspect. That if you want to understand this goodness within you, there is a part that is pulled back by gravity, but there is another part that reaches above, which we call spirituality. Now, the Buddhist aim is to reach out at that spirituality by understanding the nature of the mind. To understand the nature of the mind, the body needs to be controlled. How is the body controlled? In 5 basic ways. Don't kill, don't steal, don't commit sexual misconduct, don't tell lies, don't take drugs. That is what we call sila. Don't kill, pancha sila in Indonesia. This is connected with that. Physical discipline is necessary. Don't kill, don't steal, don't commit sexual misconduct, don't tell lies, don't take drugs. Now think, my dog must be a very good Buddhist. He doesn't kill, he doesn't steal, he's a dog. Okay, once in a while he commits sexual misconduct. He never tells, he's a dog, man. Okay, right. He never tells lies. And he never smokes. But to a Buddhist, that's all that you are. You are manusya. You know what manusya means? Very beautiful meaning in Sanskrit. Mano usha. Mano mind. Usha develop. That which can develop the mind. Okay? So, here I am. But before I can develop my mind, I must control my body. Once my body has been controlled, then I must do the second stage, which is to develop the mind. It's when I develop the mind that I understand the God nature within me. The God nature within me. I think you can already begin to see that you will be saying, oh, in my religion I say the same thing as well. Alright? It's just how we approach that common subject. Okay? So, it emphasizes the need for self-effort. I have to do everything myself. And to do that, I must understand what needs to be done. Prayer has a place in Buddhism, but the prayer is more an exercise in meditation rather than a seeking for help. We'll look at that in a minute. Now, when we talk about the concept of God, look at this. We Buddhists think of God, this concept, in three ways. We call what is called the Samutti Deva. Samutti Deva, created by convention. That when you look at things around you, you can't explain this, thunder, lightning, rain. We call these gods. But these are conventional names. We don't say that these are really God in an absolute sense, but something more powerful. So that is a Samutti Deva. And these can be different according to different cultures. You go to China, they have different understanding of their gods, their conventional gods. So when we see a lot of gods around us that we don't subscribe to, it's okay. That's how different human beings perceive their God. Okay, Samutti Deva. Then there is Upapatti Deva. These are the gods that are spontaneously born. That means they inhabit the world around us, those that we cannot see. They are around us, they are more powerful creatures. Then, on the other hand, there is what we call Visuddhi Deva. Visuddhi Deva is a person, a human being, who has purified himself. One who doesn't kill by nature, don't kill, don't steal, one who cannot do any of these wrongdoings, such a person is a God, has God-like qualities. Now what the Buddha says is, this is the type of person we must aspire to be. Yeah? Samutti Deva, mythical gods, we can say even in that sense, our Agong can be treated as a God. Why? Because he is above us, he has power over us, and he can work towards our benefit. So we respect it. That higher respect we give, we use the word God. But you notice we use the word God in different meanings. Alright? But, next one. How many minutes, boss? I still got time. But I'm going to finish soon. Okay? Right. Who is the Buddha? Do we pray to the Buddha? No. We don't pray to the Buddha. The Buddha said, look at me, I'm just a human being. Alright? But what I have understood, what I have gained, that is called the Dharma. Dharma doesn't mean anything spiritual. It's something quite straightforward. Dharma, which the Buddha discovered, is how does this universe operate? What is the cause of suffering? Why do people suffer? Why do all these universes work like this? And he says, if you understand that, and you work in the same way, and understand and work according to the way the universe operates, then you will be happy. Because in any religion, our need is to be happy. All right? Unfortunately, in the world today, we look for happiness, but we follow pleasure. We think by satisfying all our material needs, we will be happy. But that is why all religionists would agree, no, satisfying the needs of your body is okay, is good. But it won't bring you happiness. Happiness comes from a higher source. Happiness comes when you purify your mind. When you purify your mind, you realize the Buddha within you. That is God. That is the Buddhist concept of God. Recognizing the Buddha within you. So we don't pray to the Buddha. We treat him as a supreme example of how you can purify the mind. How do you purify the mind? Develop Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Sila, physical control. Once your physical control has been brought into shape, You are like my dog. Me and my dog are the same. But I am Manusya. I have to go and develop my mind. Get rid of the anger, hatred, greed, jealousy. Buddhists say it cannot be done by praying alone. Anger, hatred, greed, jealousy must be made by understanding, purifying the mind, mostly through meditation. And when your mind is completely free from anger, hatred, greed, jealousy, fear, see how many words we have to describe that. On the other side, we have one word, good. Okay, so it's very difficult. So we are very good experts at that. So when you get rid of all of that, then you. So the Buddha is not an object of worship, but a kepimpinan melalui teladan. You see? You follow him. All right? And finally, do we pray? We pray, yes. But our concept of prayer is very different. It is the preparation to meditation. All right? Why do we go to the temple? Why do we dress in a certain way? These are all beginning to prepare the mind. This is all sila. You have to control your mind. You have to, your body, and so on. Once your body is controlled, only then can you start controlling the mind. Have you ever heard of anyone gaining enlightenment in a karaoke bar? You know, okay, you can't. You have to control the body. So sila is important, but sila is not the final. So when you pray, the prayer is not to ask the Buddha to help, not to ask divine help, but the prayer is to purify the mind. So it is a form of meditation. But of course there is chanting and all of that. But these all lead not to pray to a God, but to develop the mind. All right? Meditation helps one to become aware of how anger, hatred, greed, all of these that are within us, that make us less than human. All of these, how we can take it away from us and become perfect and a pure human being. All right? And therefore, we use the Buddha as our guide, but not as somebody whom we pray to for help in that sense. Okay? So I think I have come to my end. I think I'm very popular with my moderator, all right? Because in public speaking, I was told 3 lessons. Only 3 things you need in public speaking. Stand up, speak up, shut up. I have stood up, I have spoken up, and now I want to shut up. Thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah, I thank Uncle Vijaya for his timely speech. You know, I'm kind of amazed with our speakers. At first he said he wanted more than 20 minutes, right? He stopped directly on dot before I wanted to give the 17-minute mark. Okay, brothers and sisters, our next speaker is from the Christianity faith. I would like to call upon Brother Wikiat to the mic for his speech. Brother.
Thank you, Mr. MC. Thank you for the very warm welcome. Good morning to all of you. I'm very happy to be here to share about my faith. It is sharing my own personal journey. As you saw, the words that was used to introduce me, I was born into a Christian home, so I had that great tradition of being raised with the Christian faith, but along the way I had to question myself, what is life all about? Is the faith that I have manufactured or conditioned? Did I have a choice in the matter? So I then re-examined in my own journey, I re-examined the faith that I was given when I was born. And I asked myself, who are you, God? Because you seem to be relevant in my life in some way or another. So I'd like to begin outside of, or how you begin the process to go into the concept of God. I'd like to ask us to consider this thought. I think it's taught in philosophy. It's called the worldview. So you stand apart from what you see is around you, and then you take a view. So you ask yourself certain suppositions, You make propositions. I think you as a tertiary student, you go through this process. You don't just receive, you question. And then you say, what is the spectacles? How will I view my mother having cancer? How would I view this rape? How would I look at what's happening to the country today? And you then say, how do I make those decisions about it? And where is God in the picture? I think the worldviews have been introduced in some ways to my earlier speakers. When you read the books, I guess you get these alternatives. Monotheism, which is there's God, He's supreme. There may be other beings, but there's one who is supreme overall. Even the Chinese religion began that way. Naturalism, maybe science is pretty much, some people say, is the enemy of faith. I don't think so. They should be partnering together. But somehow, some of our friends think that what you see is what you get. There's nothing beyond a cosmic universe that we see. There's nothing behind it. Miracles don't happen. Everyone complies with the scientific laws, and we're all subject to that. From dust you came. When we die, we will become dust again. E is equals to mc squared is a constant formula, closed system. Spiritism is where you say there are options. There are various gods. They may be not, there's no one above all have their respective powers. Pantheism, all is God, God is all. And the latest, I think, to arrive on Malaysian shores, very much in Western thinking, is what you call postmodernism, which means no one has the monopoly of truth. It's how you view truth. So let's live together in non-propositional truth. So you can say and believe what you believe, but that's your understanding of the truth. I have my understanding. It doesn't mean we must fight. Just live together. Why bother? I didn't want to talk about God as an abstract concept and then you choose whether you want to get involved with God in your life or not. I think that's wrong. I think God doesn't appreciate that. That is my understanding of God. So why bother? I think looking at your worldviews, looking at why you live life, has to do with what do you think life is about. Socrates, that great Greek philosopher, said, the unexamined life is not worth living. I tend to agree. Latest musical, I think it came to show in Singapore. Stop studying strife, learn to live the unexamined life. So there's this, and I think it's very postmodern in nature. I can't figure out all these answers. So just enjoy lah, and just carry on. Yeah, live the unexamined life. This is a quote from the Bible, Ecclesiastes, one of the books of the Bible, 900 BC, circa 900 BC. We think Ecclesiastes was written by King Solomon, and he said, I have examined life under the sun, which equals to life without God. That means if all I have to live for is what I see around me, so life under the sun, and all is meaningless. Today's pragmatic skeptic says, we can never know for sure. How can I ever be 100% sure? So let's just go on with life. The pragmatic skeptic, I call him. And then we have Jesus Christ, and I quote him. I have come that day, which means us, may have life, have it to the full. So when you ask these worldview questions, I want to say again, it's closer to us than we think. And when you look at it, and you can look at it from one angle, but when it's with reference to us, you must be asking yourself 3 questions. And as you grow older, these are the questions I posed to myself when I was a teenager. Probably like my son, before he became a teenager, he's just interested in PS2 and PSP. But at some point, he comes to a point, and I came to a point, and we all come to a point, we ask ourselves these 3 questions. I think so lah. You just think about it, right? Otherwise, life is not really, it cannot be I live, I die, nothing else in between. I mean, I'm just in between, there's nothing else before, nothing else after. Who am I? Why am I here? And where am I going? Okay, and when I ask these questions, I guess these questions are the function of 2 possible topics. You can use philosophy to try to answer that question, but then you're still within the confines of your mind. So you can't go beyond your mind, and you can't go beyond your own perception of reality. So philosophy tries to give us the tools to process these questions. Religion, I believe, is seeking to answer those 3 questions of life. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? Of course, how you know what you know, that's a branch of knowledge called epistemology. Okay, that's important. So when I went through my own journey, when I arrived at this thought about why I want to reassess Christianity all over again, I was in the secondary school. Behind me was Alan Yap. These are real names. He was a free thinker, atheist. You know. In front of me was Gurjit Singh, my Sikh friend, and he believed in his Sikh religion. On my left was Razidan, was Muslim, and we used to compare. He would go for Agama class. I would have free period during that time. And he'd come back and say, don't touch my Quran, because my Quran is a holy book, but I can tell you things about it. I would interact with him. I would interact with Kok Ming, who was on my right-hand side in front of me, and he came from a Chinese religion. He prayed to the altar. All Souls Day, he'd go to the grave and burn things for those who have departed. And I asked myself, how do we know what we know? Again, is it because I was born a Christian, so I must remain a Christian, and it should be my faith all the time? Or am I free to question? Did God give me a mind and a faith to be tested? So when I ask these questions of Christianity, or when I try to break down the Christian faith into those 3 questions, so when I ask myself those 3 questions, I kind of like break up into these 10 other questions. So it's a QA style. What I'm sharing now is a QA style about Christianity. What is reality? What really is behind what we see? Okay. Why am I here? Okay. God. It's not about us, it's about God. The alternative is no God. Maybe there's another alternative. It doesn't matter which God, or no God is okay. Maybe you can come with that. But for me, it's God or no God, and it's no in between. Because if God, what has He got to do with me? If there's no God, then I end up in the scenario called, this doesn't, okay. The laser doesn't work. Okay, the debate, right? If there's no God, then we say we are a product of chance. My dear friend Mr. Bala is a mathematician, and if you calculate the probability of all this happen with no God, I think the probability is far, far too low to even consider this. Hence, those who cannot bring themselves to call God God, they say, I don't believe in, they may be scientists, and mathematicians. I don't believe in chance, but I would accept intelligent design. If there's a design, it's got mind, right? It's got mind, what mind, whose mind? But anyway, what is reality? God. That is our first proposition. We start there. How can I know Him? The Christian principle is, and this I think is accepted in major monotheistic religions. God is so infinite. God is so great. God is so supreme that if He did not reveal Himself, we could not get to know Him. If He did not reveal Himself, we could not get to know Him, and therefore to answer those 3 questions I mentioned just now. So we use this term in Christianity, revelation. Not the last book in the Bible, which is about a revelation of what's going to happen in the last days, of which many movies have been made. But revelation means God saying, I'm interested to know you. I didn't just make you and create you and leave you to your own devices and what will be, will be. I made you because I'm interested to know you and interested for you to know me. So I am concerned and I reveal myself. We are a religion of the book, which means we say God revealed Himself and people experienced God and heard Him and knew what He said and they recorded it. So our pathway to know God again is to read what He revealed about Himself. So we refer now to the Bible. And so we are people of the book. And we say the Bible contains what God said about Himself, what He meant for us to understand about the world. We could not understand the way He understands, of course. Correct? We have finite minds. So it is acceptable that I cannot fully understand God. I can only understand to the extent He's chosen to reveal Himself. But He's interested to reveal Himself. So we go back to the Word. And I come from the evangelical Christian faith, which means nobody has a right to be above the Word, because it's God's Word. We can talk about how you interpret God's Word, okay? But you cannot say, I have the ultimate right to interpret God's word. I have the ultimate right to speak for God, and no one can challenge me. No, because I will use the Bible and say, I want to evaluate what you say according to what God says in the Bible. A very unique record of God's word. When we read the Bible then, so it's not about I think, I imagine, I meditate, then I will know God. He may choose to come and reveal himself that way, but I don't need that. I have the word, and I go to God. It doesn't mean I don't meditate, because there's a spiritual discipline that we should have, especially when we are meditating on the Bible's words, which means words from and about God. This is what I get. This is what we get when we read the Bible. God is monotheistic. Okay? There may be other beings that call themselves God, and God says, no, they may pretend to be God. No, it's me. It's only me. We have a name in the Bible. In the Old Testament, he revealed himself. There was a name given, YHWH, which says and reads, if you insert the vowels, Yahweh, the God, in the Bible. We share a Judaistic tradition, Judeo-Christian, before Christ came. That complete journey, the complete revelation of God is a story going on. When you read the first book of the Bible, in the beginning God created. Then you read the last book of the Bible, which is just an explanation of our human history and ushers us to the next level, which is eternity. We get this idea. All-powerful, all-knowing. You see the three omnis that we say here. All-powerful, can do everything. All-knowing, he knows everything. Omnipresent, everywhere. But also, he's personal. He's not, to us, where we are in contradiction with pantheism, it's not that God is here and God is everywhere and God is everything. He's personal. He wants to know us, and he can be known. Then we come to this difficult concept called Trinity. As we read the Bible, we realize God is one. It's unitary, it's monotheistic. But yet, the way the Bible shows how God, in different times, in interacting with us, had different, we call this persons coming forward. We say Jesus Christ is God, Son of God, and we call him God, because Son of God is a title for the person called God. Not to say that God gave birth to someone. That interaction is indeed difficult to understand. I'm not sure we can ever understand while we have the finite minds that we have. But I repeat what I said just now. If we think we can understand God fully, then we're fooling ourselves. So will there be things about God that he shows, but we can't fully understand and can't in a human way explain? Can we live with that? Faith allows me to live with that. Okay? How is he involved in the world? Creator, sustainer, controller. I'm not saying the evil that happens in the world, he caused it. I'm saying he's in control. And nothing happens that he does not know what he's doing. One of the hardest thing to live by sometimes, especially when we go through bad times in our life or we see people around us suffering, is to believe this. I say these words quite with my heart because, I watched my mom die from diabetes, right? And to utter these words because of your faith in God. God knows what he is doing. God knows best. One of the hardest words to live by. But as a Christian, I say, God, you journey with me. You know the ultimate purpose. You know why these things happen. All I can do is trust in you. Who am I? What am I? Someone. We are an individual. The Bible says God made us in his image. He didn't make the animals in his image. He made us in his image. So there's this defining relationship. I made you for me. And for this relationship, I dare say it because he said in the Bible, I am your Father. And through what we say, in believing in Jesus Christ, we can become children of God. I think that love relationship, whatever our background about how our Father actually loved us, that's a human Father. But beyond that, we have a heavenly Father who says, I made you in an image. Why would I die for my daughter? Why would I die for my son if it came to a situation where I had to deal with it? It's because I see myself in my son. He may not be I think it's the cutest baby when he was born, but that's a biased statement. I would die for him because I see him in me. Why we say Jesus Christ came and God, we of course hold to the truth that Jesus Christ died for us so that we can access back to God. Why would he give his son to die for us? It's because He sees something in us which He made in His image. And He says, I will do anything because I love you, to save you. Who am I? Wrapped up with the meaning of God. Why am I here? What is this world about? It's all about Him. It's not about us. I live my life saying, Lord Jesus, or God my Father, you left me in this world. I know there's going to be a new world. And this world isn't right at all in many ways, even in our own country. But you left me in this world to serve you and to make sure that I can build your kingdom, not so much a political kingdom, but a kingdom of people who have arrived where I have arrived. God, it's all about you. It's not about me. If I work as a lawyer, I may have a boss, but my ultimate boss is God, my Father. So He tells me how I should work, how much pay I should get. He's the one that I live for and work for. To love Him or to reject Him is a choice we make. To reject Him, thank you. To reject Him is sin. What is sin? Sin is telling God, go away, leave me alone. What is hell? C.S. Lewis, the guy who wrote Narnia, right, the philosopher from Oxford. Sin is man telling God, go away and leave me alone. Hell, and sometimes we have a problem when you say, if you say God loves us, why is there hell? Right? But hell is actually this, God saying in reply, you will have your wish. Go away, leave me alone. And God's reply is, because I love you, I must give you choice. Yeah? Love has no meaning without choice. I must give you choice. You will not have me. And hell is where you will never have God. And I can't even begin to see how terrible that is. What is suffering in the world? It is a result of sin. It's a result of man going astray. Even the earthquakes and the tsunamis, we say it began from the first sin, Adam and Eve when they sinned. Why should we all suffer because out of the sin? Because we're all wrapped up in this closed system called creation. We are wrapped up in it. God has a plan. There will be an end to this. And how we end the destiny, it depends on how we deal with Him. Hence, the consequences are real and sad. Sorry, I went faster than my slide. Okay, how do I get to have access with this relationship with God? We say Jesus came, and Jesus came to show us the way back to Him, to deal with the problem of sin, and to have that life with God in relationship with Him. Okay, last point. How do I know all of this is true? We have the Bible. It must stand the test. By all means, test the Bible. How do I know it's reliable? How do I know the words that you show me belongs to the original scripts, manuscripts? By all means, test it. I tested it. I keep testing it with my legal skills even. And I come to the conclusion, the Bible is reliable. Hence, all this truth comes up. Faith and reason. After I reason and say, this must be true, faith tells me, this is how I will live my life. Because there's no other way. If this is the truth staring at me, there's no other way to live my life. Otherwise, I am not fair to myself in answering the three questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? So what is your worldview? How do you look at God? What do you say to Him at night before you sleep? And what is He saying to you? If you can begin to think, He is reaching out to you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Fakiat. Not bad, huh? Lawyer, huh? Okay, for our next speaker, we are saving the best for last. I'd like to call upon Professor Rahman for his speech.
Good morning to all of you. If you are not here, we are not here today. So I must thank you first. Sorry, I have sore throat. Sorry for the rough voice. Okay. Good morning to my fellow brothers from the other faith, the moderator, Brother Fakharuddin. Okay. I think we are talking the same thing. I like to start my saying about Hinduism or the Sanatana Dharma with the two important terms or quotations like The famous modern spiritual master, Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, used to say it. The sauce is water. We add greedy ingredients into it. One will say syrup, the other one says tea, the other one says coffee, the other one says juice, and so forth. The truth is one. Man interprets things according to his or her understanding. That's what life is. That's how Bhagavan used to say it about religion. There are many rivers in this world, but it goes into one ocean. That's the thought every man usually, and even if he is an enlightened soul, he will have until the last breath of his. The other thing that I like to also add in is, we have seen, or you may come across any time through the movie or in your life itself. Say an example where a child is in the dying stage. A mother or father or parents is there, where the doctor is doing his all best. Then the doctor, with God's bless, the Almighty's bless, he has done his duty and he has did something to save the child. How many times we have seen that the parents, they will say, "Thank you very much, you are God to me. You have saved my chance." Or little bit extra intelligent parents, they usually hold the hands of the doctor, says, "Thank you very much. You are everything, you mean everything to me." Are we going to say that is God? So I like to start with that. The mindset of one, the intelligence of one, and how he endured his life at this birth. That's how Hinduism starts with. You start from you as a human being. You can't start with something that you don't know. You start from me. Similar to all my brothers, what we have said earlier, we has to start within us. That's where Hinduism used to start says, question you. Ask why you were born. What is the purpose of the birth? Is there any meaning in it? So that's how the real query of any Hindu starts with. I like to remember here, Uncle has mentioned earlier, what are the teachings of Buddha, where the land that he came from is India also. We share almost the same thoughts. We have the same language that we got to share, that is Sanskrit, in our culture. Okay, let me start in here. I think Brother Charlie, you're going to guide me how to use this. This is working? Okay, thank you. So the pointer is not working. I can't use the pointer as it is, but I'll try to explain what I can't. Now, whatever I'm going to present here, how I have understood through the spiritual master's guidance to me, and what I have understood by my intellect, which I practice. A true Hindu has to practice, not preach or vomit out from the textbooks. So that's the first thing that I like to highlight in here. Hinduism, the original name. I like to start the topic of concept of God is what we are supposed to share here. I like to start it as concept of God by means of Hinduism. So I will put it through the Hinduism also together. Okay. Now Hinduism, the actual name started as Sanatana Dharma, as our uncle has said. It's a dharmic based religion, principles. You live with the life where you understand what you are doing, what you are supposed to do. There is a set of rules and all that as you have taken the form in the year. So therefore, its actual name is Sanatana Dharma, but over a period, conveniently, it has been tuned as Hinduism, which is Hind. It's supposed to be the Sindh, because it's those civilized people who lived next to the river of Sindh, which is now in the border of between India and Pakistan. It's more towards Pakistan now. So that has changed to Sindh to become Hind and Hinduism. So actually it's supposed to be Sanatana Dharma. The scripture that we follow is Veda, whether it is in Sanskrit, whether it is in Tamil, two prominent language that you know well if you go through the internet. Now, who came up with these writings of Vedas? The seers, we call it, the spiritual masters. You can just colloquially use. There are many terms that we use I will use the term Hinduism for your convenience rather than Sanatana Dharma. So there are many masters, okay, the spiritual masters. They are the seers. Mainly it's supposed to be rishis, mahans, and whatever the name that Hindus like to call them as. It can be written both in Sanskrit and Tamil in general, okay. The Vedas, it's in Tamil. Really sorry, it is purposely because I should not rewrite myself, so I got to use the same thing in Tamil. It means God is one and you can get everything from Veda. It's a Tamil version. Thirumandiram is one of the texts in Tamil. Verse 61 has mentioned that you can get everything, every necessary information that you want from the Thirumandiram, and that is detailed in Vedas. Okay. Now, how these seers has experienced themselves, how they have learned themselves first before they go into. They started questioning who am I, why I born, and all that. There came as Shruti and Smriti. The revelation came through them. Then from them it came to the Hindus, the civilized people. So it's not that you born in a family of Hindu, you are a Hindu. No, you got to practice and experience yourself. The most important is not only reading, you got to practice it and experience yourself. So the Shruti is what they heard, or you can hear. If you are practicing at this moment, still you can hear it. How concentrate, how pure you are, how holy you are. Then all that heard you remember and you write it down. That is called Smriti. These Vedas came in the form of Rik, Atharva, Yajur, and finally Samaveda. There are 4 important Vedas that we have. All these are in Sanskrit mainly. Thirumandiram comes as another part in Tamil. So that is also a Veda. Now if you look at it, which I can't use the pointer, let me see, I can't use. If you really look into it, the Bhagavad Gita is a cream of Veda and tells us energy of equanimity. How you balance your life, how you equally learn everything and practice everything. You balance yourself. Next is wisdom is non-doerships. Your intellectual. Next is natural functioning for guna. That is the most important thing that every human being must have. Guna. Guna means your character, your behavior, everything. And the sacrifice of all motives. Your personal motive has to be sacrificed. It's not you who are doing. End of the day, you should know that you are not born for your purpose alone. There is another purpose who the Master has sent you. So this gunas has to be understood very well. Now during the search of the seers, the spiritual masters, they had the quest, they did all the practice, they found and they summarized the following things. That practicing comes like meditations and many others, which I can explain to you in a short while. So there are many ways of conceiving the supreme reality. The reality is the most important thing, they say it, which in Hindus we call it as Brahman. And numerous ways of approach. So not one. If I am a mathematician who teaches you calculus, I understood in a way and I practice in a way and I tell you the same thing. But another mathematician comes and teach you the same topic, same part of it, but he can use a different method. So now you have 2 methods. Now you as a person who have learned from 2 different masters, you combine them, you use a different method. So are you going to call them God? It's only a character difference, it's a methodology difference. Religion, spirituality doesn't alone depend on these rituals or the methodology. But what is the purpose? That's the most important thing. That's why I say guna is very important. The character is most important in the Hinduism. But if the character, the intellectual of this so-called human being is not higher, then they will have a lower kind of behaviors. That's why you see the different thing. So therefore, when we have different conceiving concept and also approaching concept, then that one's own way is the only way is thus wrong and harmful. So therefore, never myself declare as a mathematician, you must do this way, otherwise it's wrong. Or the other lecturer comes in, he teaches his own way, if you don't follow this way, then you are wrong. No. As long as the reality is understood and clearly is emphasized and properly put it in, then it has to be accepted. So never declare one's way alone is the way. In whatever the way they, human beings, Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 verse 11 says, in whatever way the human beings love me, the God, the Bhagavan says in that context, in the same way they find my love. If one feel that the doctor, like the example that I mentioned to you earlier, the doctor is the God at that moment because the child is everything for the mother, then for the mother, the doctor is the God. For a person who undergoes poverty, doesn't have food at that moment, even a cat come and throw, a crow come and throw a bread, that crow can become the God at that moment for that person. Because it has cleared the thing. But is that the final version of the God? No. The version of God doesn't come from problems that we are craving at. No. But more than that. But at this moment, Bhagavan says, at this moment, if you think that I am there, because my intelligence and my understanding comes that level, so I will bless them at that way. But they has to go beyond that. So that's why they say, various are the ways for them, but in the end they all come to me. So in whichever the way truly they understand me, but they behave with the truth of Dharma, they will come back to me in that form. In that way they will approach to me, if the sincerity and truth is there. But that's not the end, because there is more learning to be done. What are the learnings? God is the source of goodness and the truth. God Himself, which we understand at this moment, is the source. So I cannot say this is what the God is. No. And it's the truth itself. Man's goal in life to seek union with Him, or the moksha, which in Buddhism we call nirvana. So the aim of any Hindus in general is, what's the purpose of their birth? It is the moksha that they got to go through. Nothing else. So he lives in the same thought, same behavior, same world that he is living at, with the different ideology, but the Hindu's purpose is supposed to be the moksha. But he loves everything. This union can be sought in many ways, all requiring sincerity of purpose. The purpose should be sincerely approached. And self-sacrifice and discipline has to be maintained. Otherwise, there is no difference between myself and, like what uncle says, the dog. So there should be some sincerity in it. How am I going to approach? There are 4 marga, we call it as, or to attain the moksha. Karma yoga, the service. Not every human being like to do the same thing. Not everybody like to sit and do the chanting. Some says, okay, I see some people are poor. Okay, I have some money. I don't mind giving some money for them so that they can better off in their life. Some says, no, I don't have money, but I can spend some of my time, go and do some service to them, help them to get the thing done fast. Or I can visit some holy places or some hospitals, do a service that I can render to them. That is called karma yoga. Or a yoga means union, karma means service. Service based kind of things we can do. So that it's also a moksha. Or you can have a pure divine love to every human being. You can have. But it's not only the human being, every single soul. So let me use the new term in Hinduism. Hinduism doesn't go with the body, but it is the soul that has to be tapped. It doesn't depend on this body. This body is anytime decomposed. Anytime it is to be vanished. But the soul which is residing in it, which we call it as Atman, which I'll label it in a short while, that has to be what I am. That's what I should understand. But in 99.9% or 99.01% or even just less to 100%, most of the human beings fail to understand that myself is not this body. Because the intellect, the commitment that we have, the understanding that we have. So that's why we got to undergo this process. So if you don't have the bhakti, you find it very difficult, you have all the clashes. You can also use jnana questions, start questioning. Jnana yoga. So you ask for the truth, which is the truth. Like what we are doing is, one of the things of understanding, that is also jnana. So knowledge. It should be rational. Then the other one is practicing of Raja Yoga. The Raja Yoga is nothing but you practice meditations. Tapash. You can even isolate yourself for a few days, few months, depending on the way you are and what kind of profession that you are. Make sure that when you are doing one, you don't neglect the other. Your duty comes first, the purpose of your birth. So that path you can be followed. Therefore, understanding all these concepts, whatever you are supposed to attain, moksha, how you can use any one of the four paths. So depending on the intelligence or the understanding or acceptance of the so-called soul, by right soul, it can accept the God or the Brahman, as what the Hindu says. By right, it's supposed to be the monotheistics, but if the intelligence differs, never accept, no, the God has no form. God is only one, but it has no form, because God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. But if the intelligent, as I say, 99.9% of them are not getting into that, they can also accept as henotheistic or any other form. Why? Because in Hinduism, as long as you understand well there is a God, okay, as per your understanding, you can see the God in the form, which we call it as nirguna, or without the form. So these are the two things. The moment you see the God with form, that's where you like to see like what the doctor is at that moment, because the child is dying and the mother has the love for the child when the child has been given and the second life by the doctor. So that doctor becomes the so-called God-like due respect. So that respect has a limitations over a period. So whether the soul that I'm talking about, the Atman, has understood that with form or without form. So therefore, they has to understand that very clearly. Next, they see the God in two forms, whether Dvaidam or Advaidam. Dvaidam means I am different from God, so I see two different identities in the here. The soul and the so-called creator. Or I and God has no difference, because at once I have attained the moksha, or in the process of attaining the moksha, I will be one within him. That's what the Advaita, non-duality. So that process is Dvaidam, Visishtad Advaidam. There is a reason of process in the transformation, and it goes to Advaidam. Now, during this process of understanding, there are a lot of things that will be processed. Therefore, there can be a creation, there can be a preservation, there can be a dissolution. I can understand something, I can even say that understanding so far that I got is wrong. Then I can recultivate new things, I can preserve, and also I can dissolve it. So the process goes on, and until the Hindu, the so-called the soul, the Atman, understand it very clearly. So that's where if the soul understand the God is different from me, then they have the forms which we have 6 sacks over here, which is we call it as Shan Marga. Shan in Sanskrit is 6. Marga means the path. In whichever the way that you want, you can see them. See them first. Next, therefore, because they see the God as a different form, there is a philosophical meaning every single thing. Like the big head, it is a think big. Don't think small in anything that you do. If there's a small eyes, it's concentrate. Otherwise, they would have given the eye very big one. So there are a lot of meaning in the tattvas, we call it, in the symbolism of Hinduism. But one who don't see the tattvas will remain as what they are now. Therefore, in general, I have sacrificed. There is also a way that they see the God with the symbols of Om, with the sound. Next, if you see here, the highest religious experience is the most important thing that every soul in Hinduism must have. They don't experience, they can't get further. Sorry, I have done it. Therefore, spirituality through the religion is the most important thing for any Hindus. It's not the religion. Religion depends on dogmas and doctrines, but that has a limitation. Understand the soul in you, which is the spirit, and that is the spirituality. So do not lie on religion alone. Rituals will take you nowhere until unless you get it. So they can use any one of these paths for them to understand. They must use the yardstick of Dharma to moksha. They can enjoy the karma and artha in their life. I end the topic in the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Balraman, for his wonderful speech. Brothers and sisters, I understand that the concept of God is a topic that's quite heavy for everybody. So I think, can I have everybody's attention? Let's everybody stand up. Please, brothers and sisters, can everybody stand up? Just for a while. If you want to, brother. Can everybody just stand up? Yes, that's good. Alright, just raise your hands, both of your hands. Okay. Front. Down. Okay, is that okay? Better? Alhamdulillah. Okay, brothers, you may sit down. Alhamdulillah, brothers and sisters, we've gone through all the speakers, 20 minutes speeches about the concept of God and their own religion. I'd like to open for the question and answer session shortly. Again, I'd like to remind the rules of this session. I would love it to make this so we don't waste time. So, brothers and sisters, if you have questions, you should be ready queuing in front of the mics even now. So we'll give one question, one person, one question, and then follow through to the next question. I'll begin with this mic first, and then that mic on my right, then my left, then right. We'll do a rotation. So again, if we can just focus the questions to the topic, which is the concept of God. You may ask individual speakers if you want to, or you can ask a question to maybe 2 speakers to answer. Alright? Is that clear? Is that clear, brothers and sisters? Okay, so I'll open the questions and answer. It's already about 11:20 now. The maximum I will go for question and answer is about 11:15. Is that okay? So we'll stop at 11:50 for the closing summary by the speakers. So please, if you have questions, you can come to the mic.